This video is about taking the handles that you've created and attaching them to mugs that you've created. Whether you're pulling handles or extruding them or even making them by hand, you are going to want to make sure that before you attach them, they actually fit the form of the mug. You need to consider how the user is going to be holding on to the handle. You want to make sure that it's going to be a comfortable hold for whoever is going to be using it. In this example, you can see that the coil handle is well integrated into the textures of the cup. And this slab-built handle has all of its edges nicely rounded, and it's fully attached to the cup in a way that's going to be safe and comfortable to hold on to. Lots of times when you're creating a mug, the shape of the handle is going to actually follow the outside of the mug and the shape of the outside of the mug to create a cohesive form. You not only want the handle to look good, you want it to be comfortable as well. In previous videos, I showed how to make and extrude a variety of handles. This video is specifically about taking those handles that you've created and attaching them to your mugs. I suggest no matter how you make your handles that you make a variety of them and let them sit out for a supervised dry until they can hold their own shape without the cup being underneath. Once those handles are fully dry, I'm going to start testing them out on the mugs that I've created. So I'm going to pretend that I'm going to attach it to this mug and I'm going to see how it looks. You can see in the video here that proportionally the handle is way too big for the mug, so I'm going to start trimming it down to get it to fit really nicely to the side of my mug without sticking out so far that it looks funny. Once I have gone through and made sure that the form and the size are right, I'm going to stick it down and let it dry just a little bit more and take its shape a little bit more on the board. During the dry process, if I need to prop up my handle and hold it up with a piece of clay, I can definitely do that. Whenever I make a handle, I make more than one, so I have lots of options, and then I let them dry, making sure to keep an eye on them. If you let it dry too much, it's going to break, and if it's not enough, it's not going to hold its own shape. So I'm going to keep checking it pretty consistently while it's drying. So once I've made my handle and I've let it dry over the cup and then I have trimmed and shaped it and let it dry on its own a little bit, I'm ready to start attaching my handle. The next step is going to be to trim the ends of my mug so I have the most amount of surface area ready to be attached to the mug. So I trim it at an angle to make sure that I have plenty of space to slip and score my handle to my mug. I also know where I want my mug handle to be placed on the mug in the general area at the top and at the bottom of my mug. Once I'm fully happy with the placement, size, and shape of my mug, I'm going to take my needle tool and I'm going to decide where to attach my mug. I usually pick a spot that I'm maybe a little more distracted by, that I'm not super happy with the shape, because the handle can sometimes cover up a spot that you're not super happy with. And I'm going to mark on either side with my needle tool where that handle is going to go so that I know where to slip and score to attach. Once I have the placement done, I'm going to take that scoring tool or my needle tool and I'm going to score the area, the entire area where my handle will go, and I need to score it really well and pretty deep to make sure that I'll have a really nice attachment on my handle. After scoring, you definitely need to slip really well. So you can use water or you can use vinegar, which is what I have in this container. Vinegar acts as like a super glue for clay. And if you want to make sure that your handle is super attached, you can use vinegar to attach your handle and make that slip for the handle. Sometimes after I add slip, I also go back and rescore the area just to make sure that it is extra slipped and scored. After I score and slip my cup, I'm going to do the same process with my handle to make sure that both of them are going to attach really well to each other. Once both pieces have been scored and slipped, it's time to start attaching them. Now, if you notice that there's any areas that aren't slipped and scored that are going to touch your mug or cup, you need to rescore them and make sure that every area that's touching is scored and slipped completely to ensure that they are going to stick together. Then you're going to get kind of a rough placement. You want to make sure that your handle is bent the way you want it to and that it fits the form of your mug. Once you're fairly confident in the placement, you are welcome to start sort of pushing the handle into the mug. You don't want it to disappear. You just want it to be able to start blending. So you want to make sure that every scored and slipped area is completely touching and pressed against each other. And then it's time to start actually blending your handle into the mug itself. At this point, it would be a good idea to pick up your mug and start blending it from a variety of angles so you can make sure that all angles are fully attached. You can use a wooden modeling tool or your finger to do the blending on this part. I like to use both and have both available to me. The actual act of blending your handle into your mug is what's going to make it extra strong and make sure it sticks. So if there's areas that you want to leave unblended, that's okay. You can use your paintbrush to kind of clean up those unblended edges. But if you want to ensure that your handle is really going to stick, it would be a good idea to blend fully at most of the joints so that you can make sure that everything sticks and it's going to make it through both kilning processes. After my handle is fully blended, I can go through with a variety of smoothing tools and just smooth out and remove any excess clay from the area if I don't want it to be visible. While you let your mug and your handle dry, you want to keep them in the same consistent state, and you also want to support the handle that hangs off of your mug. So I'm going to use a little piece of clay underneath my handle to prop it up, and then I'm also going to monitor my clay and my mug and my handle to make sure they're drying at the same speed. I can always spray down my handle if it's drying too quickly. I want to make sure that they dry together. And if you're ever worried about your handle fully sticking, you can add little coils. You can see that my handle is a little bit thicker where it meets my mug in this image. And that's because I have taken small coils and I've slipped and scored them around where my handle attaches both on the top and the bottom. And what that does is that's going to help to really solidify the seam. And it looks like the handle's kind of growing out of the mug, and this just helps to create a really strong bond between your mug and your handle. You can also add decorative elements to your handle to really incorporate them into your final mug.